program. Ryan, early thoughts. Marcus Goree, nice commitment picked up by the University of Tennessee over the last week or so. What are your early thoughts on what this means for how the 2024 commitment class is already shaping up for the Vols this spring?
I don't know that I have any, or I'm smart enough to have any broad, sweeping generalizations of what it means for the rest of the recruiting class, but I think it's a good get. I mean, it is a guy that Tennessee had been after for a while, and it's always funny. He was a classic. He released like his top 5 on Wednesday and then commits on Saturday. I always find that very funny when it happens. But I 3-star right now. I did see. I think Austin Price said something to the extent of he expects him to get a major boost and end up being one of the top players in the state in the 2024 cycle. So it's a good get. It's another in-state guy I wrote about this week where I feel like Tennessee has the foundations for a really good in-state class this year. And, I don't know what his relationship is like with Boo Carter. Obviously, he's Cleveland, not Chattanooga, but pretty close. And Carson Gentle, another Chattanooga guy who Tennessee has committed, and Boo Carter kind of one of Tennessee's top targets early in the whole class, and he's as well a Chattanooga guy. So the Vols continue to have success there. I don't know if there's any close relationships, but I think that can do nothing but help the Vols there. And look, I think we're going to come up later about the position coaches and all that stuff, but defense back, we talked about it last week. Until we see Tennessee be better there with the guys that they have, it's kind of hard to believe that, at least to fully buy in on what they're doing. And they signed a really nice corner class last year, and I think they have, when you combine them with Caleb Beasley, even though he could play safety as well, but the makings of the building blocks of a pretty solid defensive back class, which I think is really important for Tennessee.
Ethan, when you look at just the commit so far, is this about where you expected the Vols to prioritize this spring? Is there a group based on what we saw with the final listing in 2023 versus how they're looking at 2024? It's their position group that you're like, I'm curious if they go here more this spring, or this one needs to be ramped up, and you would like to see a specific position targeted over the next couple months.
Let's see. I don't have it right in front of me. I want to think there's 4 right now, and 3 of them are from the state of Tennessee, which is obviously big. I mean, it's exactly what Ryan was saying. Starting out in the state, and I'll add also Edwin Spillman, I believe, the number 2 player in the state. He's been, pretty much projected to go to Tennessee since like October. He's had like 5 unofficial visits to the Vols, went to the Rocky Top Palooza last, I think, summer before or whatever. And so you got guys like that. That's a lot of, I want to think Spillman is a linebacker, something like that. I don't know.
Yep.
A lot of defensive players is what I'm getting at. And so I think the only offensive player, currently the only offensive player committed to Tennessee might be Goree, but he's a cornerback. He could play a receiver. I think he's kind of considered an athlete right now, so he could kind of do cornerback, safety, or receiver, any of those. I'd just like to see him start targeting some offensive players. If you look kind of across the country at the really elite, recruiting teams right now, you got Notre Dame, you got Georgia. They're getting, 8 players right now. We're sitting here at 4. That's fine because we're doing well in state. Tennessee's doing well in state, but they don't really have any offensive players, I feel like, on their docket as of right now. Not exactly sure who you go after. I'm not going to act like I'm a general broad knowledge of the commits remaining in the 2024 class, but that's where you'd want to go next. You want to start getting some offensive players to start replacing the obvious talent that Heupel and his staff has currently on the roster.
Yeah, I think you want to see one of the 5-star receivers. Like you want to see at least them get one of them. We'll see where Wingo lines up, and I don't know what happens with my alma mater and Mike Matthews down there in at Parkview.
So you got what Ryan said with Boo Carter as well. Yeah. He's one of the guys that you could go after for sure.
And he feels like he's probably leaning like it's going to be another Tennessee heavy class, which is good. But for me, the commit that I'm still I want to see is the 5-star offensive lineman. That's just where my head's at. Like, I'm not really worried about receiver. I'm not worried about Jordan Marshall committing or Jarek Gibson or getting the 4-star quarterback out of Savannah or even just the defensive line and things like that. I think Gardner's going to be fine there. The only thing I still have a question mark in terms of the entirety of this group is still the offensive line. We'll see. They're in the mix for some big ones, but I just we haven't really seen it yet outside of Sham. So until that kind of flips, I'm pretty nervous about where that's headed, because it's just we saw. I mean, you go up and down this conference and just big boy football, playoff football. It's just you have to get some of these guys. You cannot like Darnell was not your dude. Darnell you developed, and Darnell was really really strong, but Darnell was a 5-star just guy that you landed. You were just able to plug and play and move him. You don't have any of those guys anymore. And once Cooper's gone at the center spot, I don't know. I just wait and see. Cautiously optimistic, but the talent, at least the pedigree, I should say, is going to be a step down. It looks like, and they're going to rely on their development over getting those high end guys that just walk in as 5-stars, and you just know what you have there. So I don't know. We'll see, but that's something where I'm very curious to see how they end up faring this spring and into the summer. In terms of basketball, Ryan, is it a player problem as to why UT's offense has struggled so much, or do you think when you watch this game year in year out with the Rick Barnes system that Barnes actually does deserve a little bit more, not criticism, but just he should have to like kind of address like why he isn't evolving a little bit more in terms of just, hey, Zakai is so much better in the open court. Like maybe we do need to push the pace more, even if it sacrifices our defense because guys are more gassed because we're having to play with more tempo. But you look at it like the half court offense is just so tough to score, and you just have so many guys who are not comfortable in a half court set that you're like, Meshack just feels like a guy who is just a Mike D'Antoni dream, just a great defender who just should camp out in the corner and then drive and draw fouls, which is what he's good at, and crash the boards on threes. And I mean, Zakai, obviously, with his ability, and Tobe Awaka, he's in great cardio shape, it seems like. I mean, I don't know. I think that's something that I would like to see more than anything in terms of just offense.